In this section, we'll deal with combining rates. For a question that contains more than one rate, when should one add the rates? If the objects are moving in opposite directions, either towards one another or away from one another, or if the machines/people are doing a job together, add the rates. For example, machine X produces 6 cans every minute, and machine Y produces 8 cans every minute. Working together, how many cans will the two machines produce in 1 minute? Well, machine X produces 6 cans, machine Y produces 8 cans. This is all done in the same minute, so combined they're going to produce 14 cans in a minute, or 14 cans per minute. Let's take a look at a slightly more complicated one. Printer X can print 50 pages in 2 minutes. Printer Y can print 80 pages in 4 minutes. If printers X and Y work together, in how many minutes will they print 900 pages? Well, printer X does 50 pages in 2 minutes, and printer Y does 80 pages in 4 minutes. We can simplify these rates. 50 pages in 2 minutes, we can divide both the top and bottom by 2 to get 25 pages a minute. And for printer Y, 80 pages in 4 minutes, you can divide the top by 4 and the bottom by 4 to get 20 pages a minute. So if printer X does 25 pages a minute and printer Y does 20 pages a minute, combined they do 45 pages a minute. We then set that up as a proportion. So if you can do 45 pages in a minute, or if the two printers combined can do 45 pages in 1 minute, then they can do 900 pages in how many minutes? We set up our algebraic equation, 45 over 1 equals 900 over x. And here, instead of cross-multiplying, you can see that to get from 45 to 900, you multiply by 20. So to get from 1 to x, you should also multiply by 20. This is a shortcut you can use when doing proportions, and you see that the proportions are one unit is a factor of the other. So 45 is a factor of 900. You can see it's exactly 20 times less, so that means that 1 must be exactly 20 times less than x. So in this case, it turns out that x is equal to 20. Or in other words, it's going to take 20 minutes for these two printers to print 900 pages if they're working together at the same time. Let's take a look at this question. So train A and train B start from the same platform but travel in opposite directions. If train A travels at a constant speed of 100 miles per hour and train B travels at a constant speed of 80 miles per hour, after how many hours will they be 810 miles apart? So here they are at the same point, train A and train B. Train A is going to go 100 miles in 1 hour. Train B is going to go 80 miles in 1 hour. Their total distance apart in 1 hour is 180 miles. So what we can say is that if they are 180 miles apart in 1 hour, how many hours is it going to take for them to be 810 miles apart? That's the proportion we set up. And then we can write it algebraically as 180 over 1 is equal to 810 over x. When you do the cross multiplication and the algebra, you get that x is equal to 4.5. So in other words, it's going to take 4.5 hours for them to be 810 miles apart if they start at the same point and one moves at 100 miles per hour while the other moves at 80 miles per hour. Let's take a look at this question. So running at the same constant rate, 8 machines can produce 240 CDs in 1 minute. At the same rate, how many CDs can 14 of the same type of machines produce in 5 minutes? Here we know that 8 machines can do 240 CDs per minute. So when doing questions like this, where the number of workers or the number of machines changes, not necessarily the rates, but the number, figure out what it is for one machine. If 8 machines can do 240 CDs a minute, then one machine can do an eighth of that, or 30 CDs in a minute. And now we want to know how many CDs can 14 of the same types of machines produce in 5 minutes. So first let's figure out how many the 14 machines can do in 1 minute. If one machine can do 30 CDs a minute, 14 can do 420 CDs in a minute. We just multiply 30 by 14. And then we set up our proportion. 420 over 1 is equal to x over 5. When you cross multiply, you do the algebra, you get that x is equal to 2,100. What about subtracting rates? So for a question that contains more than one rate, when should one subtract the rates? if the objects are moving in the same direction, or if one person / machine is doing a job while the other person or machine is ruining the job, subtract the rates. Let's take a look at this question. Car A and car B are both traveling in the same direction. If they start from the same spot at the same time, but car A travels at an average rate of 60 miles per hour and car B at an average rate of 80 miles per hour, how many miles ahead of car A will car B be after 1.5 hours? We know that after 1 hour, car A will have traveled 60 miles because it's going at 60 miles per hour. And we know that after 1 hour, car B will be 80 miles, will have traveled 80 miles because it's going at 80 miles per hour. So after 1 hour, B is 20 miles ahead. After another half hour, car A travels 30 miles. Because it's going 60 miles per hour, it's going to go 30 miles in half an hour. Car B, on the other hand, after half an hour, will have gone 40 miles. Because it's going 80 miles per hour, after half an hour, it's going to go half that, or 40 miles. So in an hour and a half, car A will have traveled a total of 90 miles, while car B would have traveled a total of 120 miles. So after 1.5 hours, B is 30 miles ahead. And so the answer here is 30 miles. Now there's a way to do this without drawing the diagram. We can use the knowledge that when you have cars going in the same direction, you have to subtract the rates. So here we know that the rate for car A is 60 miles per hour, or 60 over 1, and the rate for car B is 80 miles per hour, or 80 over 1. The difference between the two, their difference in speeds, is 20 miles per hour. What this means is that each hour car B goes 20 miles further than car A. That's what the difference in speed tells us. So what we do is we set up a proportion where if car B gains 20 miles each hour, or goes 20 miles further each hour, that's what we're setting up here, 20 miles further each hour, then how many miles further will it go in 1.5 hours? This is a proportion set up to figure out how many miles ahead car A will be, ahead of car A will car B be after 1.5 hours. When we do the algebra, we'll get that x equals 30, or that after 1.5 hours, car B is 30 miles ahead. Let's take a look at another question that involves subtracting rates. Suppose water goes out of pipe A at 25 gallons an hour into a 100-gallon tank, but the 100-gallon tank leaks 5 gallons an hour. If the 100-gallon tank were empty, how long would it take pipe A to fill it up? So what we have here is a tank being filled with water, and it's being filled at a rate of 25 gallons per hour, or 25 gallons an hour. However, it's leaking at 5 gallons an hour. Because what we have here is something doing work while something else is ruining or undoing the work, we're going to subtract. If we're filling it at 25 gallons an hour, but it's leaking at 5 gallons an hour, that means that it's being filled total at the end at 20 gallons per hour. Every hour there are 20 gallons more in this tank. So then we set up a proportion. If the true rate at which this tank is being filled is 20 gallons per hour, because we're factoring in how much it leaks, then we say 20 gallons in 1 hour is equal to 100 gallons in how many hours? Once you do the algebra, you get that x equals 5, or that it would take 5 hours to fill up this 100-gallon tank if you're filling it up at 25 gallons an hour and it's leaking at 5 gallons an hour. And finally, let's take a look at this question. Money is deposited into Sam's account at the rate of $550 per month and is withdrawn from the account at a rate of $60 per month. At what rate is the amount of money in Sam's account increasing? We're depositing it at $550 a month, and we're withdrawing at $60 per month. Because these two are opposing actions, that means that it's increasing at $550 minus $60 a month, or $490 per month. So the answer here is $490 per month. That is the rate at which the amount of money in Sam's account is increasing.